Tribe, day 3 of the summit. DJ was lit as ever, as always, and I am so excited to be bringing you all energy from the motherland. Many of you have thought I was an anomaly by leaving the States in the middle of the pandemic and heading to Africa to live my best, most centered, most healthy life. But I've met some incredible women on this journey. They inspire me still to this day, every single day. So I'm so excited to unpack their stories in this panel discussion. So I'm gonna just let them dive on in, Ladies, if you could shed some light on your individual stories by telling everyone what prompted your move from the States over to the continent, where you are now, and how you made it happen. Faye, why don't we start with you, Mama?
So I'm Faye, and I moved abroad about 7 years ago. I didn't initially move to the continent of Africa. I moved somewhere in South America, but I moved because I wanted my freedom. I wanted to discover a life I loved. My mother had passed away at the time, and she had decided she wanted to travel when she retired. Of course, in the US, the retirement age is 66 and a half. She passed away at 57. That was my goal also, to travel and move abroad when I retired. And so I decided I'm not going to wait. I'm going to do it today because life is short and tomorrow is not promised.
Felt. That's so inspiring. That is so inspiring. Thank you so much for sharing that vulnerable piece of your story. I love it. What about you, Dr. Alexis? What prompted your move, and what was the journey like getting here?
Oh wow. So I had it's kind of similar to Nikki, my best friend transitioned, and actually my best friend and a close friend transitioned within a week from each other. And so for me, it really sent me into a spiral of like, what's my purpose? What am I doing? What really makes me happy? Am I doing what's making me happy? So I fired my boss and I started thinking about what makes me happy. And I started writing out a list, and I was like, when I went to visit for my graduation trip to Tanzania, that's the most peace I've ever felt within me. When I went, I felt this, I felt that, and so after that, I just was like, why am I still here? And that was the next level of questioning, like, what's holding me in the States? And are these attachments that valid enough where I need to actually still be here? And I was like, no, I can maintain. My nieces and nephews, all their life I've been in school. So they're used to me being away, maybe not that distance, but they're used to that. So every attachment I kind of came up with, it was like, that would just be an excuse. And I really need to move beyond excuses. And I was like, okay, I'm leaving. And I told some people found out when I was on the plane. Some people still don't know. Some people may find out today. So, that's how I got here.
Ashe. I definitely have a story of mixed feelings around when I took my journey and I just had to do it. And to this day, I'm like, one day they'll get it, but until then, you stay where you are. And I'm gonna live my best life. That's dope, Dr. Alexis. And Rita, last but not least, what about your story? What prompted the move, and what was it like coming over?
I think for myself, it might be a little bit different. Both of my parents are African. So my father is from DRC Congo and my mom is Indian from Kenya. So I've been coming to Kenya for honestly my whole life since the 80s. So for me, it was more like I wanted to really understand what it would be like to live in Africa the same way my parents were born and raised in Africa, right? I've been coming to Africa, I've been visiting Africa for many, many years, but I've never actually lived in Africa. And to live and work in a country is much different than coming, my background, I'm a lawyer, same like Faye, we're both attorneys. So, you can call us doctorates as well, but I think maybe Faye might agree with me. I mean, I just got really tired of it. I was a public defender for almost like 15 years. And I just got tired of it. I remember going out for like happy hour drinks with a couple of my girlfriends, two colleagues and one of my girlfriends, like off of Church Street on the lower side over in Tribeca. And I just remember very distinctly sitting at the table, listening to my two colleagues who were older than me and thinking to myself, it's like, if this is what it's going to look like in another 15 years, I'm good. Like, I'm real good. I'm good. Let's just keep it moving. I wanted to create something that I had made that was mine, that people would be proud of and be proud to be associated with. And for me, it was a little bit easier just because I have been coming to the continent for a long time. I have been coming to Kenya for many, many years. I do have ties to the city. I have aunts who live here. So for me, it was just more like I wanted more for myself. And I also knew, the lady boss life that I see for myself was never going to be funded by being a government lawyer. And so that's kind of like how I got here.
Amazing. I honestly see myself in all of your stories. I'm sure some people listening, drop a 1 in the chat if you can see yourself as well. But Faye, my mother was murdered when I was very young, right? I was 1. And so I always had this looming understanding of how short life was, right? She was 21. Even at 21, I was thinking about death, right? So when I hit 30, right, similar to what you're talking about, Rita, and I was called in my profession, structured multi-billion-dollar loans. I was called, but still I had to wait on somebody to give me permission, right, to track faster than they thought, was normal, right? I had to wait for somebody to give me permission to keep on bumping up my salary again and again because they still wouldn't get the number, right? And I just left, right? And I see myself in your story, Dr. Alexis, because while everybody rooted me on when I had this corporate job making 6 figures, right? VP of this and doing all of that, it was so hard for some of those same people to conceptualize me leaving the States on my own dollar, on my own merit, right? Taking a bet on myself. And so I just love that we're amplifying, those stories and showing the other side of what it looks like, right? Like we're here, we're still ourselves, right? We're safe, right? Beautiful. So I want to get a little deep if we can. Dr. Alexis, pivoting over to you, you love talking about what I call the 3 C's, right? One being colonialism, right? And if you could shed light on what it was like for you, kind of unlearning some things, unindoctrinating yourself with certain things, and then what the other side of collectivism and communalism looks like for you in your life.
So great question, first of all, because that was a large part of the reason for me to come here as well, decolonization of my mind, body, practice, and spirit. And so I'm a clinical psychologist. So a lot of Western psychology, a lot of what I learned was what has been studied and what will benefit people that do not look like me, and really does not serve people who look like me. And after I graduated, I just really, first of all, I was burnt out. I'm not gonna tell no stories. I was burnt out. And I went right into a predominantly white institution. And so I literally was able to see in this counseling center how this field in which I had always intended to help my people through had no intentions or didn't have the highest, let me say that, intention of, when we talk about healing and wellness, the people who look like me being included in that conversation. And that made me really feel like, okay, this is not why I even came into this field. Like literally, when I interviewed, I said, I'm here for the Black students. Like I just want to let everybody know that, because we need it. We need it the most. I'm just going to be honest about that. So for me, it was having those realizations. It was sitting to take the EPPP, which is a licensure exam. After doing 5 years of free training, free clinical services, and realizing out of 225 questions, it was only 1 question that was centered around African psychology or Black psychology. Having those realizations and then failing, just being very transparent, failing that licensure exam. And having the moment where, you reach out to your other friends that are in your profession. I reach out to my other friends and they're all like, oh, I failed it 3 times. Oh, I failed it 4 times. I failed it 6 times. And I start thinking, okay, these are all people that look like me. Do I really want to keep investing all this money into this system who I've seen continuously over and over again not benefit my people? Is that really what I want to do? So for me, it was, what would that look like as a psychologist who's trained as a clinical psychologist to just focus on more spiritual healing, to focus on more holistic healing. What would that look like? And so then Reiki came into my knowledge in terms of me being trained, and then going all the way to be Reiki master, and just learning these different cellular healing techniques that I feel is a bit more beneficial in conjunction with, therapeutic services. So that's what decolonization looked like that got me here. Since being here, it's been realizing even the internalized oppression that's within me and how that comes off. It's been noticing and seeing like how we carry our traumas as Africans who manifested in the West, and even as our brothers and sisters who were born here on the continent, and the different levels of oppression. Whereas us in the West, we know who is against us. We know who the oppressor is. It's very noticeable. Whereas here, the leaders look like us. So it's easy to think that your people are against you, or it's easy to have these thoughts, so it's just this understanding now of being able to see what levels of oppression globally look like, and actually seeing that within myself and choosing to actually deal with that. So that's what it's looked like for me. I hope that wasn't too long of an answer.
Nah, that's real, sis. I mean, you got a bunch of nods and smiles and smirks from us. It's so real, and I think it's really cool that you are coming at this from a clinical standpoint. I mean, the smallest things is like when I got here, and it wasn't even a woman that was over here, but I had slowed down enough to be present enough, because literally nobody was rushing me. Like, if anything, on my slowest day, I was still moving faster than anybody around me, right? Because that's not the culture, but I slowed down enough to hear, right? And a woman told me on a Zoom call, like, oh yeah, what you're describing is eczema. No doctor that I've ever seen, I had very good healthcare my entire life, right, had ever diagnosed what my stress-induced, illnesses was. And she told me natural things that I could get, especially over here, to heal it. And it was the first time that I wasn't treating a symptom, right? Steroids just to get the, the rash to stop flaring up, right? And some hydrocortisone to kind of clear up the rash. It was like, this is how you heal that thing, right? And since then, and the access to that stuff over here, right? So what you're doing is powerful. I think the system you're talking about, you're not wrong, right? So thank you, for real, for taking up space, taking the time to explain all of that, and give us a vulnerable lens into your story. I do appreciate you, Dr. Alexis. So Rita, I want to pivot over to you, right? Our stories, I'm sure, include some challenges, right? Some L's we've taken, or some, lessons that it's taken some of us longer to learn, right? As you think on your journey, right? What were your biggest challenges or losses that you faced, specifically in where you were? I don't even think we've said where we're based yet. Maybe we can do that too in these answers, but what were your biggest challenges?
So when you're saying base, like where it is that I've started my business and where I am.
Yep.
So I am based in Nairobi, Kenya, with intentions of being able to move into all of the Comesa region. For myself, I started my business. I think maybe our businesses are a bit different, at least on our panel, in that my business is very much so catered for local community. I do not cater to an online community. I do not cater to a US-based community. My community is here. I started my business just as had I have been, like a regular local person in the market starting a business, in terms of getting all of my documentations, in terms of getting my citizenship, getting my business licenses, getting importation licenses, alcohol licenses, everything like that. I've done it on my own. I think some of the biggest challenges, and I mean, we could be here all day, but I'm just gonna, because I'm glad that you let us know how we were gonna talk, so I'm just gonna leave it to the top 5, all right? Faye definitely, like Faye and I, we know each other. Faye definitely knows all of the stuff I gotta say about folks, but I'm gonna keep it classy and cute. So my biggest issue here is, number one, because of our American accents, I am called a Mzungu, and for all of y'all out there in the Blaze tribe community, Mzungu is the collective African word for whites. And so I am always called a Mzungu all the time. And it has to definitely do with my American accent. In the States, if you would have called me a Mzungu, I've been like, no. Here, I've learned to let it slide, but now also in exchange for being gracious enough to let it slide, I'm also expecting to be given all the privileges that Mzungus are given. AKA, if I'm coming through and y'all see me, run me my stuff. I don't want to hear nothing. Give me what I got to get done. Okay, that's simple, period. I do a lot of, I really do, all of my C-suite is local Kenyans. The artists that I use, my graphic artists, my website designers, everything, I like to use local talent. We do have a lot of amazing local talent in the market, but I think that because of the way in which certain things are set up, they're not really given a chance or an opportunity. So I really am big on that. However, this community is lacking a lot of soft skills, a lot. And we don't really, I think sometimes when we're in the West, you know, fine, you want to come over, but this is definitely a challenge that is over on this side. As Americans, there are a lot of things that we are socialized from the beginning. I'm sure a lot of you guys probably started doing some sort of working or moving around pretty young, probably junior high school or high school, right? So there's a lot of lack of soft skills, i.e. those skills being communication, timeliness, honesty, accountability. You're going to have a hard time finding that in this market. At least for me, I know I do. And I think most of the people who do what I do, they would agree with me. Corruption is real. Okay. Like, is corruption global? Absolutely. Does it happen everywhere? Sure. In every sector? Sure. However, these parts of the world, the corruption is on every single level. And so to give you guys an idea, when I went to go get my business licenses, they wanted an extra $600. When I went to go get my liquor licenses, they wanted an extra $15,000. When I went to put my products onto the Pharmacy and Poisons Board, which would be reasonably the equivalent of the FDA in the US, they wanted, y'all ready for this? $30,000. Okay, so the corruption is dumb real out here. It is obnoxious. It is a hindrance to all things movement. And then you're also going to get a lot of people, like for me, we are a service-based industry. We are in the wellness and health industry. We do a lot of white label importation, distribution. We are wholesalers, retailers, and sub-distributors. You ain't going to get paid out here. You're not going to get paid. So you can make all the contracts in the world. I have got contracts all over. As I'd stated before, I am an advocate by trade. I'm an attorney by trade. You can make all the contracts you want to. But guess what? Enforceability on these parts of the world, it's real different. It's real different. I'm from Miami. It's like I grew up in the 90s Miami. It's a little bit more thuggish back then when I was growing up. I think you guys would all agree. I grew up on drug dealing music, not drug doing music. And sometimes it's going back to some drug dealing music, right? Like, run me my money. I don't really care about what you're saying to me. Run me my cash. Just to give you an idea, we will have contracts out in the market with retailers where our products on consignment should be paid back within 30 days. I'm waiting about 90 to 120 days, up to 6 months to get paid back for a product. So that, especially if you are in this sector in terms of trade, you've got to really have your investment and your capital in order, because you are going, we have so much money in the market right now, but remember, your expenses are ongoing. So in terms of that, those are, like, in my opinion, the big 5 challenges that I have dealt with in a very real way.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. I think if people know in advance, they can do things to arm themselves with relationships or local people on the ground. I know my fiance being Tanzania and speaking Swahili, it helps me a ton, because he knows what the market value for stuff is. He knows how to haggle and negotiate. Like, it helps on the other side of no price is final, because he knows how to get it down, But yeah, if I was here by myself trying to figure that out, I'm absolutely sure as soon as I open my mouth, they're like, oh yeah, she got the coin. Let me, Thank you, Rita. So what about you, Faye? What's been some of your biggest challenges in, personal life or even and entrepreneurship with your business?
Well, first I was thinking, Rita, you're only waiting 6 months for payment? Wow. Maybe you should negotiate some of my contracts.
Because I be running up on folks. I run up on them. It's like, give me my money.
Can you
I've got
come by?
employees. You have to come by. Look.
Listen,
Blaze Tribe, I got y'all.
I'm going to add you to my payroll. That's all I'm saying right now. So Rita and I have very different businesses. I have two inside of Kenya, and one is a travel business. So I'm dealing with only American tourists, which is great because, money's paid up front. There's no issues. However, right, an issue is that I have to then work with local vendors. And so that's when I run into kind of my headaches because, people actually showing up, people showing up on time. As an American, when you've booked a tour or a service, you expect people to come on time. But typically that doesn't happen. So now it's me working on the other side to calm down, the tourists. Like, okay, they're coming, just not right now. How long? How many minutes? I don't know. Even if I asked them, I would never know. So you kind of, it's a little tricky on that end, but still a better business for me because, I'm primarily at least getting paid from Americans. So, no matter what the issues, I've already gotten a check. So it's, kind of nice on my end. But I also run a construction company in Kenya, and man, we have a lot of government contracts and other contracts with other businesses, but it's extremely difficult, as Rita was saying, to just get paid. It's not like, you have a contract, you expect your money in 3 days or 30 days, or it doesn't matter how many days you add to the contract, there's always an issue. And in some contracts, I've been waiting for money since the business started. So I still haven't gotten it. So it can be very complicated. But what I will say is that if it wasn't worth it, I wouldn't still be doing it. So it is very much worth it. Like even the money that we get paid, there are some contractors who don't pay, and the government is always, you never know, it's 50-50. But when it does come, it makes it worth the experience. And, as in the way of issues, I think the main issue for me when just trying to create business and moving forward on business is the system of patriarchy. That becomes a huge struggle. Because, for people who don't know, like it's a male dominated society, like the males lead the society, period. They look at you as an aside, essentially, like, you're not to come in and dominate. You're not to come in and tell me what to do. I'm to be in leadership. I've had people tell me, ignore me completely. And like, is there a man I can talk to? And I'm just like, from, where we're from, it's like, oh my God, like, no, you didn't. That's a huge faux pas. But for them, it's just a Tuesday. And so, it can be a little overwhelming for a strong woman, especially, two lawyers in Kenya, so, we often have issues. And, I've discussed this with Rita, and yeah, I just when Rita, I wish she would tell one of her stories. It really cracks me up. But just the way, we both have to handle ourselves. And sometimes we have to be more aggressive than we would even like to be, just because of the lack of respect they're showing for women. So that is really a huge issue for me. Like, I don't want to have to ask a man to make a phone call for me. I don't want to ask a man to handle my business. I think that's disrespectful to me as a woman. And so that's a challenge, admittedly. However, again, it's still, a great place to do business. There's a lot of money in Kenya. I think there's a lot of money all over the continent, and we haven't been getting it for a long time. And so it's far time for us to actually start getting some of it too, because I feel like it's more our birthright. And so, I'm happy to be doing business in Africa because, it's very beneficial for me, my family, and I'm sure my ancestors are going crazy that I've made this connection. And I'm also able to gain, from a country that they loved, a continent that they loved and wish they were at.
I say all the gems. Thank you for sharing both sides of it too, Faye, because I really think it's important for us to be very upfront again, so people can proactively get their stuff together, even if it's talking in the mirror, like how you gonna respond when this happens, right? But yes, there is a flip side, because if you're gonna deal with crazy, if you're gonna deal with microaggressions, macro ones, etc., you might as well decide, right, which fight you want to be in. I agree wholeheartedly. And last but definitely not least, Dr. Alexis, what have been your biggest challenges since coming over to the continent? Please do share, where you are. You're based somewhere different geographically, personally and in your business.
Yeah, so I'm just across the border in Tanzania. I'm in Dar es Salaam. So in terms of business-wise, I was really cracking up in preparation of this, because for those of you all who watch Insecure, I felt like this was like me in my Issa moment on the panel. And I'm like, first of all, so grateful to be on a panel with dope women like yourselves, with all that you have going. That's exciting for me. Because I'm in my novice state. Well, I don't know if I want to introduce myself as a novice, but I'm in my beginning phase, my budding phase of entrepreneurship. And so for me, a lot of things have been learning, especially in the wellness profession, like one, pricing myself, and doing it where it honors my value, just being real. Because as a helping professional, I want to help everybody. And then I look up and be like, well, you also have to help yourself. So actually learning that in business, like that's really important. Two, because I don't want to just be focused on a diasporian based community. I want to also offer services and also be able to educate when it comes to wellness topics to our Tanzanian brothers and sisters. Of course, language, I do my best, learn as much Swahili as I can. And then also just, there are certain words in English that just don't translate in Swahili. So also just like figuring out these terms and just being able to translate it. Also the understanding and importance of wellness, like here, because globally we are underserved when it comes to our mental wealth and our mental wellness, and how that impacts our lives. And so it's no surprise that here that is also a challenge of getting people to understand the importance of investing in your wellness. We know investing in other things, and sometimes we think wellness is, just going to get a massage, and that is a part of wellness. But actually being able to heal and discuss some deep-rooted things that keep impacting us is important as well. So just being able to communicate that confidence on a personal level as an entrepreneur. I was trained to be an employee. Like, I was not trained to be an employer in my program. They don't teach us anything about having your own practice and the business side of that in my program that I attended. So I'll say that. So confidence has been something that has been a challenge for me, and really noticing, like, when I'm in spaces, am I shrinking myself, or am I really allowing myself to shine and talk about the services that I provide and the passion that I have about these services? So that's definitely some of my challenges. Just the immigration things as well on a personal level, just figuring that out, and status and citizenship, and just doing those things that can become a challenge, because you have to make sure you're on top of it and that doesn't get you caught up in anything. So for me, that has been a challenge, because I'm here by myself. So just figuring that out, and also just building a tribe in the midst of that. So I'm grateful for the tribe I have that helps me along that journey. So yeah.
Super dope. I love the diversity of everything we've shared. Like, nothing has been exactly the same, because it's real, right? I can say for myself, when I came over to the continent, I decided to take the approach of being a digital nomad, right? I have a skill set in banking and business, right? Understanding business models where I could, sell that expertise from anywhere in the world. So I went to Cape Town first for a year, right? And I consulted businesses in the States, right? So I was able to, like mentioned today, get 100% of my money up front, right? I was spending much, much less on the continent, right? My rent was always under $1,000, no matter how nice it was, where the beach was, and so that helped a ton. And I was just surveying, right? So I just moved to Kenya in February. the whole time I've been surveying, you know, how to penetrate this continent so that it's effective. Because honestly, right, I'm thinking about Tanzania specifically, a lot of businesses that are doing these drag and drop solutions on the continent, it doesn't work, right? Like when I went to Tanzania, most of the citizens don't speak English, right? But the Uber app, but you can sign up for Uber, right? And everything's in English. So they're looking at the map, like, where do I go? Saying in the Swahili. And I'm like, I don't know, saying it in English, you know? And this drag and drop solution does not work, right? Like it's ridiculous, right? So one thing I've been doing to help me like real time assess, you know, how I might penetrate is I've consulted here on the continent, right? The company is called Hello Tractor. Y'all actually hear from the CEO on Sunday, so tune in for that. The fireside chat is called Cape and Heart for Black Women, right? Because, and he's the only male in the entire lineup of over 35 women, right? Because since consulting his company, right, they do technology for agriculture, and nobody in the room is a woman, right? You see them on the farm, you see them breaking their backs and working, but nobody that comes to speak up for the solutions needed are women, right? And so I've dealt with a lot since I thought banking was tough, right? Since stepping into that space, and I think he's learned a ton too, right? About showing up and being the one to be a part of the change, right? Helping women in his company even, right? Not feel shy, hands down, and do what they think people need, but like say, hey, I think this is stupid, right? Actually, we do this because I'm the one breaking my back every day. I understand the product, et cetera. So many ways to skin the cat. I hope you've heard some of that and everything we've shared. Thus far, though, 100% of my revenue outside of this company is generated in the States. And even that company is based in the US. They just do all of their work on the continent, but it makes it easier for me to earn, right? While I figure out, you know, how to dip my toe and do some solutions here. Super dope, ladies. So, Faye, actually, I do want to ask you this, because you actually are working on a launch that can help people get to the continent, right? If they do want to move or invest, right, at the very least. Could you give some insights on what that offering is?
Yes. So I started a company called Launch Your New Life Abroad. So essentially, there's a group, Black Tribe, that I started about a few years ago. It was mid-pandemic. It was when everything happened with George Floyd. I was living my best life. I'm like, you know, this is great. I'm so sorry for people at home. Like, man, that sucks. Like, you know, I wish they could be here with me, you know. And then I was like, you know, maybe I should tell people about my journey, just so, because exposure is everything, right? And so I was like, if I share this journey with other people, maybe they'll know there's another option. And so I started this group on Facebook, Black Tribe. And so I launched it just to tell people about my journey. I added some other expats to the group, like, hey, let's share our journeys with people. Maybe they'll move abroad, or maybe they'll at least see there's an alternative to what they're experiencing in the US. And so the group just exploded and went from 0 to 23,000, like very quick. And so in this group, like, I kind of noticed like some of the issues. One was, you know, there was an issue for people finding careers outside of the US, or essentially a remote work, or how do I make money was a big question. And so I actually started, I'm really good on figuring out a need and then supplying, you know, the solution for that need. But so I started a consulting company called Someday Started Today to help people, women specifically, because I'm very passionate about helping women to succeed. And so the company actually helps women to basically live location independent lifestyles. And so from that, I noticed still like there was still some hesitation, like, okay, I've started the company, now you know how to make money, you know how to start a business abroad, so what's the disconnect here? And it was really like they didn't feel comfortable doing the work. Like, you know, a lot of us, I guess all of us, are very independent. We can go to a country, it's no problem, you know, I'll show up tomorrow and I'll set up shop, it's no problem. But a lot of people were afraid and hesitant to do this. And so it launched this business for me, Launch Your New Life Abroad, and in which I actually just take you, you know, I set up a group trip. We go and visit a country together. I take you to meet immigration specialists. I take you to meet expert entrepreneurs. I take you to meet your future community. We do neighborhood tours so you can kind of see which neighborhoods are good. You meet real estate agents, and, you know, just basically setting up your life for you. So you really don't have to do anything. It takes out all the groundwork, which I noticed was a huge problem for people. And so now that we're taking out all that work, like, people are actually signing up for trips. Like, yes, like, I don't know if I would have done it otherwise. And so we've just just had just a tremendous outpouring of support for the company, and just really like folks are really excited now that, you know, they have someone to take this journey with. And in addition, we also assign them, you know, accountability partners. These are for the people who take the trips, and they're moving to the same countries. For the last country we went to, it was San Miguel de Allende, Mexico. And 3 of the ladies are now going to be roommates in Mexico. So they've decided to just be life partners together. They're all single women, older ladies, and they just did this. They have made this commitment to each other, and they're all retiring very soon and taking this journey together. And I'm just so excited and so pleased that, you know, this program has brought them together and done that for them. And so, you know, we're doing these trips all over the world. The next one is Portugal at the end of June, and then we're also doing Ghana at the end of the year. And next year we're adding several countries, Bali, London, South Africa, also redoing Kenya again, and some other countries. But it's just really great, because the reason why I'm adding countries is because people have just requested it. And so, you know, I'm happy to be providing this service just to help people in this journey to get the heck out of the US and find a better life. And for me, it's not just, you know, oh, I'm moving to another place, but I'm finding my freedom, because, you know, there's a lack of freedom in the US. Like, actually, I'm in the US now, and I'm just like, just the feeling I get anxiety every single day. You know, when people walk into the room, walk up to me, I'm like, oh my God, like, is this, you know, one of these people who hate me for no apparent reason? And so, you know, I just can't be here. And I want to provide an alternative, you know, for other people, specifically women who want to escape. And, you know, even not just women who, my business caters, not just to women who want to leave, but just women who want to be at home. I want to be at home with my kids. So, you know, I want to be location independent. So I'm just trying to cover all those bases to make sure women are just free.
Woo, so much life in what you said, Faye. Y'all, I am a part of one of Faye's groups. Like, she has made plenty of them, okay? I was added to one of her WhatsApp communities full of Black expats in Kenya, right? And I met a woman in my building who's also from the States. The same day, she reached out to Faye and said, please add her. Faye added me, you know, and she's on a ton. Like, Faye is being modest, but like, you know, she really is a community creator, right? So I just want to use her brilliance to underscore the fact that problems exist everywhere. Yes, right. But the entrepreneur gets to do something about it, right? Like, and when she finds new gaps, she just creates a new solution for it, right? Like, you don't need permission, you know, show up and do your thing, right? Because you're already brilliant enough today. Thank you, Faye. Thank you for the community you've bridged me to. They be cutting up in the, y'all, I'm laughing every day. Every day, because y'all know how we do. Love it. All right, so we got it, man. This has been very rich. We can go a million different places in this, but I do want to, for the benefit of all the entrepreneurs listening, right? If you all could give some tips, right, around, and obviously your businesses are different, right? We're in different industries, etc. Some tips on like how you've structured your business model, right, to actually work on the continent, whether you're serving people in the States or locally, right? Like, what are some tips you would give to entrepreneurs who wants to get over the challenges you're mentioning, right, and make it work? Faye, let's start with you.
Well, first and foremost, the first thing I'd say is just do it. You know, there are challenges to everything in life, but this is such a valuable resource in that, you know, this opportunity to expand your business abroad, like, it takes down barriers that existed that you would, you know, in the US, like, for example, I'm in construction, like, I cannot get into this business in the US. Like, I called actually because I was trying to order some parts, and the guy's like, which company are you with? And I was like, well, I own my own company. He's like, huh? I was like, yeah, yeah. So, you know, do that. The first piece of advice I'd give is to automate. I'm not one who likes to do a lot of work, so I try to automate as much of my travel business as possible, because, you know, it's nothing like having to sit on the phone all day, answer emails all day. Like, I don't have the time. So primarily all of my businesses are businesses that are just easy for me, you know, to put together quickly, or it's basically hands off. Like, even my construction company is essentially hands off. You know, we work with a broker, so that person is doing a lot of work, and I'm just kind kind of following up to make sure things are done. My money's, coming. But yeah, so I say focus on things that make your life easier, because a lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to move abroad and I'm going to be working hard. I'm going to do 40 hours a week. I tried that lifestyle and it's just not for me. Like, you want to, like, when you can have a more relaxed lifestyle, take it. So don't get yourself into something that's going to have you working around the clock and being Mr. and Mrs. Busybodies. And again, automation can help you with that. But essentially, like, connections, network with these expats, because we're the ones who've been doing it. We have the keys, we have the information that you need. I mean, pretty much people are emailing me all day or texting me all day like, hey, do you have this piece of information? Yes, because I've gotten every piece of information for where I am, because I need to do business. Even places where I don't live, like, if you ask me, I have resources there too, because every place or every country I visit is a potential place to do business for me. So don't just vacation, like, take the time to explore what do they need in this country, because that's where your next business is going to come from. I'll tell you, I have my travel company is located in 13 countries around the world. Like, and it's because when I'm on a trip, if it's a viable, place for me to do business, I go immediately. Like, okay, let's start setting up shop. I can't go home now because I'm setting up a business here, because this business is going to make me money for long run. I can come here many times in the future if I would like. And I think for me, my business is very vendor based. So it also takes some of the onus off of me. Like, people are complaining like, oh man, that vendor did that. Man, let me complain, So, it just makes it easier for me. I had started out in the Airbnb business, and that was me. Like, oh, your place didn't have salt. Like, okay, but now I'm the person, like, I didn't put the salt in there, but working through vendors just makes things very easy for me. And then automating through those vendors. So again, you're not on the phone with 50 vendors, because initially that's what I did. Like, I was just like, oh, okay, hold on. I'm at a dinner date, but hey, real quick, and so that was just not feasible for me. So it's just really setting up your business so it's hands off and it's easy for you, because once you move abroad, I'm telling you, you will not have the same mentality. You will not want to be working around the clock. You will not want to make work your lifestyle. You want to make relaxing your lifestyle. And that's what we do. We're getting massages every day. We're going, enjoying our life. Rita calls me, you want to go to dinner? Yeah, because whatever I'm doing can wait, because that's how I've kind of set up my business and my life. So it works for me and I don't work for it. So those are really the key takeaways for me, to just impart into people, to say, hey, this is a viable opportunity. Just really do it, just do it. You can reach out to any of us, or other expats that you see that are doing business, like, find out what's happening. Like, how did you do this? Like, how did you start? We are happy to talk to you about it and happy to give you the keys to the kingdom if that's what you need. And so, I'm always telling people about my business, like, listen, this construction business is easy, it makes a lot of money and it's easy. So if you want to get in it, just let me know. I give the information. I'm not one of those hoarders of information. Like, I'm all about being open and sharing with people. So, so that's it for me.
Amazing. Say it with your chest, Faye. Like, that was so dope. And everything she's talking about is scale, right? If you automate your business, it can scale, meaning your revenue increases without an equal increase in your time or expense, right? Vendors, that is scale, right? Your revenue can increase without an equal increase in your time or expense, right? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, right? So definitely love those gems. Rita, what about you? What tips would you give entrepreneurs using things you've done in your own business model, right, to help it be successful abroad? You're on mute, mama.
Girl, look, I'm over here talking and I don't even realize. Thank you. So I was saying, right, like, for myself, I don't believe life is a team sport, right? To be able to create, to be able to make something, you need collaboration to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, life in and of itself, your life, it's not a team sport, right? What I'm doing over here, Faye's not doing. What y'all are doing over there, Casey, you're not doing. Dr. Alexis, you're not doing it, right? I also believe that if you are going to come out here, maybe some of the character traits that you would want to be able to have is resiliency. Right? Real resiliency. You have to be able to learn how to be creative, flexible, adaptable, tenacity, right? You got to really be able to have your eye on the prize. Faye is really correct. Like, I did not come out here to work hard. I'm an efficient worker, right? I did not come out here to reinvent the wheel or to do any of that, right? Same as how we're saying, we came out here to find real viable solutions for our community, right? If I wanted to continue to do all of this, I could have stayed in New York. I would have continued just being a lawyer and woo, right? But that's not really what I wanted. So I think those are kind of some of the things, and also just really being able to think, plan, and execute. I think a lot of people, everybody's got great ideas. Everybody's always got an idea, right? Like, you know, you'll be somewhere and it's like, well, if they would have just done that, that would have been better, right? Now, once you have your idea, right, you got to be able to have a plan to execute that idea, right? So your next step are all those people who make plans, right? So your big ones are the ideas. Then it lowers down into the plan. And that's where people get lost because you got to execute it. And that's where people always fall short. I think that's where people always feel overwhelmed. I think that's where people feel as though it's hard, they don't want to do it, but it really is true. I think for myself, I've really understood kind of the adage that the market will tell you, right? I didn't really understand kind of what that meant, right? That the market will tell you. Now that I have been in this business, been doing my distribution, I get it. The market will tell you, right? You can have an idea, you can have your whole plan and you execute it, but now the market is going to tell you, how do they want your product? How do they want to receive your services? And you as the entrepreneur have to be flexible and adaptable. I think sometimes when we create things, we have real tunnel vision, right? Where it has to look exactly like this. And if it doesn't look exactly like this, then I've messed up. And for me, I feel as though for any entrepreneur, that's like the worst mentality to have, right? Because you've got to be able to shift and move. I mean, even for myself, we first started out doing private label wine for our community. COVID hit. We switched over to sodas with nutrition. We put it out there. COVID's over. My market has been telling me, I don't even care about this COVID stuff. What I really want is something for my wellness and all of that. So because of that, we've introduced a whole new line of products because exactly what the market is telling us. You also start to understand that you've got to be solving something in the market, right? Just because you've got a great idea, just because you might think it's a great idea, is it really something that the market wants, right? And that is also something that I have learned in this journey, right? Where it's like I said, we started out doing sodas with nutrition for COVID, right? And my market was like, I don't even care about that. I don't even care about it. Thank you so much, but I don't even care. I want this instead, right? But there's no solutions. That's where we now started to step in. So I think those are some of the things that entrepreneurs who are really looking to come over to this side of the world to be able to do it in whatever capacity that they're doing it. Those are some of the things they should be thinking about.
Love, love, love it, Rita. You know, she's right? Like mindset, I think is more than half of the battle, right? Like you really have to remove ego in this journey, not just in the beginning, but the whole time, no matter how cold you get, right? Because you must have feedback loops, right? Like people's tendencies change, their desires change. What's hot today won't be hot in 10 years, right? And if you don't have a feedback loop because you don't want to hear, constructive feedback, you will become a dinosaur so fast. You'll become irrelevant so fast. So I love that she stressed all of the ways, right? That you need to be self-checking yourself and benchmarking yourself. Product market fit is what she talked about as well, right? So the life cycle of a business, entrepreneurial phase is 3.5 years, baby. Like 3.5 years to figure out what you are doing, right? And how to serve your people. You need 3.5 years of feedback to figure out what the kinks are so you can move them out of the way. And then you get to the growth phase, right? And then you get to the mature, all of these things, right? So, I mean, I hope y'all were taking notes. Like all of those gems are so important. And you got to be, I'm not going to say humble or modest. Like you just got to be receptive enough, you know what I'm saying? To let them tell you how they want to spend their money and do what they want, not what you want them to have, right? Super dope, Rita. Thank you. And Dr. Alexis, swerving over to you, right? What tips would you give entrepreneurs today, about what to put into their business model and the way they do business that's worked well for you?
Well, one thing I would definitely say is be open to mentorship and seek mentorship. If there's something that you want to do, then look for who's already doing it, who's doing it well. And keep your model clear and don't, You don't have to become a copycat of their model, but have questions for them. How did you break into this market? What are some, challenges, like the things you've asked us? Be open to having mentors. That has helped me a lot, both in my business and in my confidence, just being honest. So being open to mentorship. I will also say trusting yourself, trusting that you have what it takes to make your business a success, trusting that, all that you have is enough in that moment and you'll continue to gain more. And then lastly, just loving the journey and the process, and not being so stressed out about the outcome sometimes. So, as things come up, like just really having like Rita mentioned, like those character traits that will keep you being able to move through different changamotos or challenges, so those are the three things I would say.
Thank you, Dr. Alexis. And I gotta tell you, like every time you speak, everything you say, it just echoes all of the things that I learned on the continent. Like this stuff you're talking about, I didn't appreciate in the States. Like Africa has helped me to slow down and just not take silly things so seriously, right? And so what you are saying, it took me, over 30 years to even get to that space, right? Of trusting myself. I knew I was twice as good as, the best man who didn't look like me in there, right? But I still, I still had to muster up the courage to like throw thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars on that thing, right? And trust that I'm gonna land on my feet every single time, right? Enjoying the journey. My mind was always 10 years ahead. I felt like it had to be. I was told it had to be, right? I experienced trauma and a divorce and all of this stuff. I don't got time for that. I got to keep moving. I'm going to lose my job. It was always 10 years ahead, and my body on the inside was broken up, right? Stress showing up in so many different ways in my body. And when I came to Africa, I appreciate that now, right? And so when I'm saying I'm studying the business model, I'm coming to understand why they don't give a damn about emails and they want to come to your house and have a conversation. And as much as I thought that was inefficient, trust is such a big part of the culture here. You know what I'm saying? Trust. Who are you? What are you made of? What are you going to do with this money? How do I know you're going to still be here a year from now when I need follow-up support, right? And textbook can't teach you that, right? Y'all entrepreneurs who want to come, like textbook ain't going to be able to teach you certain things. You got to come here and experience it and trust yourself enough that you're going to still be walking on the ground, above the ground, not under it, right? And that you can experience joy in the land of the living, right? You ladies are so fire. I always thought you were fire, but now I'm even more in love with you. I'm standing out even more. So thank you so much for joining us today, for sharing very vulnerable pieces about your life and how badass y'all are in y'all's businesses. Love and light. We appreciate you so much. Thank you.